Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Dane, your host of the Rock and Metal Guardian. Hope you're having a great day. Today I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite non-mainstream heavy metal bands of all time. So let's jump right in. Coming in at number 10 is the band Southern Whiskey Rebellion. They're from here, my hometown, New Orleans, Louisiana, and they are a southern stoner metal band. They only have 3 albums, unfortunately. Their themes that they talk about are, in their songs, are society, politics, and rebellion. Those are the 3 major things that they talk about. So a southern stoner metal band, you can consider them groove metal as well. And essentially what they sound like would be Down meets Corrosion of Conformity after they became a metal band. So not the punk stuff from Corrosion, but once they started treading the metal water, so to speak. So Down meets Corrosion of Conformity with a twist of Lynyrd Skynyrd. And while they don't sound like Lynyrd Skynyrd per se, they bring to the table that vibe of Southern rock that Lynyrd Skynyrd was the pioneer and the best of that genre, in my opinion. So again, Down meets Corrosion of Conformity with a twist of Southern rock, similar in the vein of Lynyrd Skynyrd. All right, if you're not familiar with them, you can still get their music on Amazon in MP3 format. That's how I have them. That's how I have their music, because I'm having difficulty getting them on CD. And I've had this for years, and every once in a while I'll look and see if I can get it. It's just too expensive as from third-party sellers. So if you're not familiar with them, check them out. If you are familiar with them, post in the comments what you like or don't like about them. Thank you. Number 9, a band I've only come to know the last 4 or 5 months. That is Blood Ceremony. This is their second album called Living with the Ancients, which has a connection to pagan mythology and the occult. So essentially cult type of titles. You have songs like The Great God Pan, Coven Tree, 2 words, Coven Tree, Daughters of the Sun, The Witch's Dance, My Demon Brother, Morning of the Magicians, The Hermit, etc. And the best way to describe this band would be, well, folk metal, psychedelic metal, a little bit of doom, and as not coming from me, but I agree, some critics have described them as Black Sabbath meets Jethro Tull, and I would agree with that, as I said, but I would also, for this album, again, Living with the Ancients, Blood Ceremony, that's the back cover. I would describe them as Black Sabbath meets Deep Purple meets Jethro Tull, because you have a bit of cool Hammond organ on here, not so much with their other releases. Definitely not any or very little with the new one, which is called The Old Ways Remain. A couple weeks ago, I did a review of their new album, 7 Years in the Making, and I gave it a glowing review. I really like it, but it's different from this. This is their best album, in my opinion, because of the Hammond organ, Tull flute, and Black Sabbath stylings on the guitar. Their first album, I think, I know I like it, but the first album, in my estimation, is what I mean, has too much flute. It's a bit intrusive. And then their third and fourth album are very good, but this is amazing. This is their magnum opus. And then my second favorite album is the new one, as I said, called The Old Ways Remain. And if you're not familiar with Blood Ceremony, check them out. Listen to it first. I highly recommend you start with this album. Again, this is called Living with the Ancients. This is just fabulous. And I just got this in the other day. All right, so that's number 9. So if we review real quick, Southern Whiskey Rebellion was 10, Blood Ceremony number 9. Coming in at number 8 is Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats. This is the new live album. I got it a couple days ago. This is fantastic. It's a 2 CD set called Slaughter on First Avenue. And the reason it's a 2 CD set is because the first disc is like 84 minutes, 83 minutes, and then the second disc is almost the same length. So they couldn't have put it on 1 CD, and I like that. They made a double, and I'm a big double. I'm a nut for double live albums, whether disc or vinyl. And the best way to describe them is stoner rock, doom metal, psychedelic rock, occult rock, because of the titles and that sort of thing of the songs. You have song titles like Death's Door, 13 Candles, Ritual Knife, Slow Death, Crystal Spiders, Desert Ceremony, I'll Cut You Down. And just to show you, I brought their first and second album, which are my favorite. I still need to get their other 3 studio albums, but I've heard them all. These are 2 of my favorite. These are my 2 favorite. I mean, the first one, Volume 1, and then Bloodlust, my favorite of the 2. Just phenomenal. Some versions of this, I think the woman who's in a shock and surprise has a knife in her hand, but this version doesn't for some reason. I'll Cut You Down, Death's Door, Over and Over Again, Curse in the Trees, I'm Here to Kill You, 13 Candles, Ritual Knife, Withered Hand of Evil, and Down to the Fire, which is a bonus track. So if you're not familiar with Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, I highly suggest you check them out. That's what this episode's all about. And about the vocalist, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes he sounds like a creepy John Lennon. So, and that adds to the vibe of the song titles and the occult titles and all that. So, Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, number 8. Now, coming in at number 7, I don't have a prop because everything I have by them is everything except the new EP, and the band is Monolord. This is a doom metal band that is just fabulous. If you're not familiar with them, I highly recommend them. Check out the album Veneer, and that is not the thing you put on a table to cover or make the top. It is a race of gods in Norse mythology that challenge the Asgards, and then they merge and assimilate into Asgardian culture. And that's my favorite of. They have 5 or 6 albums, and the new EP only has 2 songs, but I think they're long tracks, like 8, 9, 10 minutes. I'm going to get that soon. I haven't heard it yet, but that's one of my future purchases. Unfortunately, you can't get it on disc or vinyl, or cassette or whatever. I'm sure you could stream it, but as far as physical copy goes, the only way you can get it is MP3, if you even count that as physical product, which I don't. Okay, so Monolord, check them out. Their first album, Empress Rising, is also good. That's my second favorite. Now, number 6, another New Orleans band, Down. Some may argue this is not mainstream. I mean, some will argue this is mainstream. I'm going to disagree and say no, not as popular as Pantera. Yeah, they're popular, but I don't think they had the commercial success that Pantera does. I know they didn't have the commercial success. And I think that's Pepper Keenan on the back with a cigarette in his mouth trying to look like Jesus with the crown of thorns. It could be Rex for all I know. Anyway, this is their best album. One of the examples of where bands debut is their best. You got Temptations' Wings, Lifer, Pillars of Eternity, Hail the Leaf, Rehab, Underneath Everything, Eyes of the South, Jail, Losing All, Stone the Crows, Fabulous, Pray for the Locust, and Swan Song, Bury Me in Smoke. Produced by Down and Matt Thomas. This is fabulous. Much better than their sophomore effort. Great debut. One of the best debut albums of all time in heavy metal. But to me, non-mainstream. All right. Coming in at number 5 is a tie, but you'll see why. Celtic Frost and Trypticon. Trypticon essentially picks up where Celtic Frost left off. We know that if you're familiar with Celtic Frost, they did a kind of like a hair metal or glam metal album with Cold Lake, and then they had Nemesis after that, which was okay, and then they had the comeback album Monotheist, which is fabulous, and then they break up again, and then Warrior puts this band together, and they just recently toured, I think, at Hellfest, one of those festivals during the summer, and they didn't play any Trypticon songs, but they played Morbid Tales, Emperor's Return, and To Megatherion back to back to back. I wish I would have gone, but I heard about it too late. I would have drive to Texas. Got some great photos on the back. I'm not a big Hellhammer fan, but too grating for me, but I love Celtic Frost, their heavy stuff. And of course, they're an experimental metal band in the sense that they're very avant-garde and that they're in many ways the pioneers of death, black, maybe doom, and definitely extreme metal. So they're very popular, but I still consider them non-mainstream. And then coming in at number 4 is the band Sleep. This is a Dope Smoker. If you're familiar with the album, you know that one song, an hour, 3 minutes, and 34 seconds, and then you have a live song. So this is essentially just one song that's over an hour, and it's just amazing. I would call it meditation doom metal. At least this album, when this first came out, it was in the 90s, and I remember the album cover, and I didn't pay much attention. I used to work at Musicland in Sam Goody, and I was in Baton Rouge at the time going to school, and I see not this version, but the original album cover, and it's got Sleipnir from Norse mythology, the horse with the 8 legs, and it's got like a warrior that's not a Norseman, but from like the Middle East riding, and I thought, oh, this is so cool. Had I known what this band would have become and the legacy behind, I would have snatched that CD up in a heartbeat. And hindsight is 2020. If I had that CD now, that would be worth so much money. Not that I'd sell it, but just a great collector's item. I'm sure you can get it out there for dollars and dollars. But this reminds me of the Dune books and movies. So you got 2 moons, kind of like the sun, and you got 2 suns on Tatooine in Star Wars. And if you're familiar with the song, you get dung, 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 and that's the motif throughout the whole song. It's just fabulous. Like I said, very meditative. Their new album, or their most recent album, The Sciences, is just fabulous. I saw them live in Knoxville before the pandemic, maybe the year before that. And wow, just amazing. I'm so glad I got to see Matt Pike and Al Cisneros and the gang play. And their first album's called Volume 1, which is not like their second and third and fourth album. It's more avant-garde. It's hard to put into words. You'll just have to listen to it. You can, I think you can get MP3 format from Amazon. That's how no, that's not how I got it. I'm trying to remember. A friend gave me the MP3 because he had it on vinyl, and then he somehow transposed it onto CD and then MP3 for me. But just as one big track, but it's more than one song. It's 9 or 10 tracks, but I just have them as one. That's the best he could do for me. I'm very grateful. And probably their most well-known album is Sleep's Holy Mountain. And if you can get the version with their cover Black Sabbath's Snowblind, which is quite good, almost as good as the original. So again, Sleep coming in at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is Electric Wizard. I have everything by them. Last summer, I went on a tear and scooped up everything on CD because I was tired of just having it on MP3. And this, arguably by many, is their magnum opus. I'm still not sure for me what their magnum opus is. This is in the running. Down the road, I want to do my ranking for Electric Wizard. This has got to be one of the heaviest bands of all time, if not the heaviest bands. Doom metal, stoner metal, hence the album cover, Satan smoking a reefer, right? And just so amazing. You got to check them out if you're not familiar with them. If you are, tell me what you think of the band. It's too bad they broke up after Wizard Bloody Wizard, but they had a great run. 10 albums if you count the pre-Electric Wizard CD, which has tracks from when they were in the stages of becoming Electric Wizard under various band names. So Electric Wizard, again, combination of Electric Funeral and the Wizard, so they're homage to Black Sabbath. Check them out, folks. Next, High on Fire. I just love this band. I discovered them one day. I was in Borders when that bookstore was still around, and they had their flyer for bands coming to the city and the metropolitan area, and I wasn't able to go because I had to work. I never heard of this band. I was like, wow. And my brother-in-law had heard of them. He's like, oh, they kind of like a Motorhead, but heavier. And he's like, yes. And this is arguably their best album. Again, still haven't made a decision. Blessed Black Wings, their third or fourth album. This is fabulous. This has a bonus disc with some live tracks on DVD. Let's see. Yeah, it's got a bonus DVD in here. And I haven't looked at it in a long time. I think it's like 4 or 5 songs. So, High on Fire. Matt Pike, the same guitarist in Sleep. Now, finally, my favorite non-stream metal band of all time. This is a band I discovered in high school. I was a junior. I was taking a chemistry class, and I remember talking to a friend about it in chemistry class. That's part of the memory that I have, because I was showing him this catalog I got from some guy in California. It was a cheap-looking catalog. It was all done in black and white photos. It's very cheaply put together, staples and 2 staples in the binding, and that was it. And this is how I came to learn of bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Slayer and other bands. And so the band is Serathon Goal, not pronounced Kirathon Goal like in Tolkien. This is the Frost and Fire, their debut, and this has the original. Well, yes, this has the. This is a 2-disc set. It has the 2021 remaster of the debut, and then that's disc 2. Disc 1 is the 40th anniversary remix, which I like much better. Kind of like the way I like the Black Sabbath Live Evil remix better than the original. This is produced by Randall L. Jackson. Of course, the cover art is from Michael Whelan, who did. This is the band's mascot. They took Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion figure, or one of the Eternal Champion avatars, known as Elric of Melniboné, and this is just a great mascot, a great band, and a great album. The best way to describe them is heavy metal, and they're from Ventura, California. And you have songs like Frost and Fire, probably my favorite song by them. I'm Alive, my second favorite song. A Little Fire, What Does It Take, Edge of a Knife, Better Off Dead, and Maybe That's Why. Maybe That's Why is a great way to close an album. So there you have it, everybody. My top 10 favorite non-mainstream metal bands. Again, Southern Whiskey Rebellion, Blood Ceremony, Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, Monolord, Down, Celtic Frost / Trypticon, because Trypticon picked up right where Celtic Frost left off. Although years later, Sleep, Electric Wizard, High on Fire, and Serathon Goal. Here's some runners-up, or honorable mentions. Caius, Orange Goblin, Saint Vitus / The Obsessed / Spirit Caravan. Those are Wino's bands after Saint Vitus. I like both versions of Saint Vitus, whether it's the original singer or Weinrich. Monster Magnet, Church of Misery. If you're not familiar with them, check them out. All their albums, or most of them, are based on serial killer stories, and each album is one serial killer, so it's kind of like concept albums, sort of. The Sword, Destroyer 666, but excluding their first album, which is just too grating for me. Their most recent album, I heard, and I was like, wow, they're heavier than Queensryche, but the guitarist at times on the new album sounds like Chris DeGarmo. Just fabulous. Witchcraft, I like a lot of their stuff, but not everything. Their last album, Black Metal, was not a black metal album at all. They had some lineup changes. It's just the original member with an acoustic guitar and a new band, or some of the original band maybe. And it's I'm just gonna say it's terrible. Anyway, but I like the 4 albums or 5 albums that came before that. But I don't like all the songs and all their albums. If they were more consistent, they would have made my top 10 and bumped somebody. Not sure who, but I do like them, so they made the honorable mentions list. Their first 2 albums I think are the best, and I like more avant-garde and proggy is the album Nucleus that they do. You should check that one out too if you like a kind of a prog metal vein. Neuroses started off as a punk band, but then they became heavy metal and then got into a more avant-garde type of groove, if you will. The album that I'm trying to think of, In Silver and Blood, I think, is their magnum opus. That's the one I like the best if I got the title right. And then the stuff that comes after that's quite good. Kind of like Godflesh meets Nine Inch Nails, but without the same type of vocals. It's hard to describe them, but they're quite good. And then the band Isis. But the problem with Isis is that some of their stuff, the vocalist sounds like I Hate God, which essentially is a guy who sounds like a spoiled brat who's crying because he's not getting his way. But some of their stuff is phenomenal, like Panopticon, and there's another one that I can't think of. There are 2 or 3 that I really like, and the rest you can just keep. And then finally, my last honorable mention is Corrosion of Conformity. So again, thank you so much for watching. This is my top 10 favorite non-mainstream metal bands of all time. Thanks so much for watching again. Don't forget to click the notification button to be apprised of all upcoming videos, and click the like and subscribe button to help the channel grow. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.